I just had an utopian vision. Now this might not sound too remarkable to someone who's already into this and has thought about this, but I just realized it now. Fundamentally, technologically, this shouldn't be too surprising, and I've always been aware of how this works and all that, but just now I really realized it. Just now it really came to me. Imagine if everyone and their neighbor was running I2P. The I2P network. If everyone had an I2P node running on their computer all the time, everywhere, just everyone. This could be easily achieved by something like just the operating system they use coming with I2P pre-installed and pre-configured to run by default every time the computer is started. And this includes all the smartphones and everything else. This would be truly amazing. This would be the perfect utopia for the internet. Like this, to me, is like the ultimate end goal of where like the internet should go. The internet is very new still today. It hasn't existed for that long. So it is not yet fully developed. There's still a lot of room for it to go. There is still a lot of room for it to grow. And this, I believe, is the direction it should go to. Just imagine the amount of people. The network would then be truly distributed, and just everyone would have an I2P node. Basically, the speeds would be quite high because there are so many people on the network that you can connect to. And of course, everyone's communications would be all private if the I2P is used for everything. Now, of course, there could be still things, some connections that are made that are not done through the I2P network. Not every connection has to be made through the I2P network, of course. But what I'm saying is like they're just running the node, and then they can use it when they need to. So every computer, every person running a computer, they would already have an I2P node running on the background. And then whenever they want to use something through the I2P, then they just do it. So there could be a lot of I2P software pre-configured and already there on the operating system when they install the operating system. So when you get the operating system, you install it, or have the operating system already pre-installed on some hardware you buy. If there's already I2P stuff configured there, then everyone would already have I2P running. They can use it if they want to. So any communications or any other things they want to do through the I2P network, then they can. And some communications that they don't need to do that through that, then they don't need to do them through that. Anyway, just imagine if everyone had I2P running, then there would no longer be such a massive privacy violation going on in the form of just tracking everyone. Now, of course, it is possible that some of it could happen, and the I2P alone doesn't necessarily get rid of all of it, obviously, but it would still help, and it would still anonymize a lot of the traffic on the internet. But just the amount of people who would be on the network would be so high that not only would the speeds be really high because there's a lot of people to connect to and a lot of routes that the traffic can take, but also the anonymity itself is also improved because just how many people there are. If everyone, like I just said at the beginning of the speech, if everyone and their neighbor was running I2P, it is next to impossible for anyone to ever track the route that the packets take, because if everyone is running it, then just everyone is running it. Every last computer that is currently running, would have an I2P node. Yeah, that would be awesome. And it's not like it would take that much bandwidth anyway. The I2P network, it doesn't necessarily take too much bandwidth because, like, well, also with just how many people there are, the more people there are, the less connections need to come to you specifically. The more people there are, the more distributed it is. So therefore, the volume of information going through your node specifically wouldn't actually be that high anyway, because, well, there's just so many people to choose from for the network that it just doesn't necessarily, not all of it goes through you specifically, so it wouldn't be that high of a requirement for the bandwidth. It wouldn't use all of your network bandwidth, the I2P. It wouldn't do that. It would only use just a little. And like I said, not everything people do need to go to the I2P network, even if they run the I2P node. They would just run it by default. And really, wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't that be like one of the most awesome things, and like one of the best use cases for the internet in general? That would take full advantage of the nature of the internet as being a truly decentralized distributed network where anyone can connect to everyone else. I mean, anyone can connect to anyone else. And they do connect to anyone else. Everyone connects to everyone. The I2P network. Yes. And not only that, but there's all the anonymity and all that stuff. Like, isn't that how the internet is supposed to be used? Now, then, with this in mind, well, how come no GNU plus Linux distro comes with I2P? Isn't that rather unfortunate? I say there should be a campaign started where I2P needs to be pushed on the GNU plus Linux world. GNU plus Linux distributions, they should include I2P by default. They should have a node running by default. Every time you start the computer, it should start up the I2P node by default. That should be the default behavior for all the GNU plus Linux distros. So at least those. Now, of course, there's no way some stupid Microsoft Windows will ever be doing that, or any of the other proprietary operating systems. They want nothing less than people having, like, so they don't want people having privacy on the internet, and I2P is their worst enemy. So there's no way any of them are ever going to do that. But if I'm talking about the ultimate end goal of the internet and all that stuff, and I'm talking about hypothetical future scenarios like this, I might as well throw in there GNU plus Linux becoming the mainstream operating system for everyone. So then, yeah, we need to have GNU plus Linux distros come with I2P by default. That has to happen. That needs to happen. That should happen. Absolutely. Totally and absolutely. That needs to happen. I think there is a serious need for that. And that should be done. Yes. So, yeah, there needs to be some big push for I2P. And then I want to mention why I2P specifically. Why not something like Tor, the Onion router? Well, here's the thing. The things I've just talked about, the awesome things about the I2P network, with everyone and their neighbor running an I2P node, well, it wouldn't really be the same with, like, Tor, because Tor has a very specific use case. Yeah, Tor has a very specific use case, and it relies fundamentally on specific purpose entry, exit, and those middle nodes. There is a very specific structure to the Tor network where each node has a specific purpose like that. They have the entry, exit, and whatever the middle node is called. I don't actually know what the middle node is called, but it doesn't really matter now. The middle node, whatever it is, That's the one. So due to this specific structure, it wouldn't be the same as with I2P if everyone had I2P. Now, there is a difference between the I2P and the Tor in that I2P on its own doesn't actually connect to the ClearNet at all. Tor has everyone go through the Tor network and exit out into the ClearNet again. But I2P doesn't do that at all. Like, that's just not a thing. It is possible with the I2P network to connect to a proxy after you go through the I2P network from where you started on your own computer. It is possible to go through a proxy after the network to get to the ClearNet. That can be done, so you can get from the I2P network to the ClearNet in a similar fashion to Tor, but and also similarly to Tor, it also requires that there are these volunteers who run these proxies. They are basically the equivalent of the exit nodes in the Tor network, of course, so in some sense there is a requirement for that sort of a thing too, in that sense. But like, when I'm talking about the future of the internet and these possible future scenarios, you could have software that uses the I2P network and have that as the mainstream form of software and like what people use. So software for that purpose already exists. There are things like RetroShare. In fact, I should make a separate speech about RetroShare, and I will be making that perhaps after this one, unless I want to include it in this speech. Yeah, I might not make a separate speech about RetroShare after all. If I include in this speech, I'm not sure. I'll see what happens as I keep talking. Anyway, so there are already softwares like RetroShare that allow people to do communications and all their internet activities, all the file sharing, the communications and content publishing and viewing, all that can be done with software like RetroShare already. So the I2P network fundamentally is self-sufficient in the sense that you don't need to get out of it. You don't need to get out of the RetroShare network, the I2P network, with programs like RetroShare. If, for example, let's say that there is a future scenario where RetroShare replaces social media outright. So all these big social media platforms, they just vanish, and then there's RetroShare, and everybody uses RetroShare. Now RetroShare can be used with the I2P network, so it connects to the I2P network. Now RetroShare doesn't have to be used with the I2P network, it can also be used directly on the ClearNet. RetroShare and I2P are not necessarily linked in that sense that they don't depend on each other, but they can work together, so that's why I'm using it as an example. RetroShare, if configured to run through the I2P network, then all the things that people do on the social media, let's say all the communication they do, and I'm including in social media all the messaging platforms that people use to send private messages, all those things, I'm including them all as the same thing. So all of those things, private messaging and all the content viewing and such things, they are all doable with RetroShare, and that, if configured to run with the I2P network, it can all run through the I2P network. And if everyone and their neighbor is running an I2P node on their computers, then that would be quite awesome. Yes, that is perhaps one of the best scenarios for the internet in the future. So yeah, the internet really is used wrong today. the way the internet is used today is entirely just wrong. It's just this is not how it is supposed to be used, where there is this one massive centralized server, or rather a few of them, but still just a few, where everyone connects to. That is not the way it was supposed to be. That is not how things should be done. I say there needs to be an end to that. And obviously I don't mean that there is no need ever at all for centralized servers. Obviously they still have a purpose, and they should still exist for those purposes for which they make sense for. But social media is not one of those purposes. Social media is not one of those things that needs a centralized server. In fact, it's detrimental. I have made a specific separate speech about that, so I'm not going to repeat that here. So you can go see that speech. It's the speech about how... Actually, I don't remember what it was called exactly. It was the speech about how social medias are bad and peer-to-peer is the future, or something like that. That was the name of the speech. Anyway, so yeah, I2P, I think that is the solution. One of the solutions to these big problems. It solves a big part of the privacy problem. And then, let's see, yeah, the privacy problem is largely solved. And just the sheer amount of people who would be connected to the network. Yeah. I2P, yes. I2P is better than Tor. If I had to compare I2P and Tor, I2P is better. Fundamentally, I2P can achieve the exact same as what Tor does, basically. I already mentioned this with the proxy. Yes, the comparison of I2P proxies to the Tor network exit nodes. So functionally, I2P can already achieve what Tor does. So what Tor can do, I2P can do. And I2P on its own already has more capability than Tor. So I2P has more to offer. It already has all the built-in mechanisms for all the, like it can create basically a self-sufficient internet on its own. Whereas Tor is just a means of anonymizing your traffic, leaving your computer and connecting to a server or something wherever you want to connect to. So it just anonymizes the traffic. But I2P can be used to create an internet, like its own ecosystem, basically. Everything can be done on the I2P network. You never need to. You basically never need to leave the I2P network. In a scenario where all the stuff is available on the I2P, if everyone hosts EAP sites and all that stuff. So basically, on its own, I2P is self-sufficient, basically like an internet replacement. I mean, not an internet replacement. The World Wide Web replacement. Yeah, sorry, that was a mistake. It's not an internet replacement. Internet is the network of networks. That's the physical networks. It's the physical network of the physical networks that connects the computers. That's the internet. So nothing is replacing that. It's a replacement for the World Wide Web, I2P. Basically, yeah. So, yeah, I2P has more capability, and it can do everything Tor can do, and more. So that there's no real reason to use Tor specifically. Like, why would you want to use Tor when I2P can do everything that Tor can do, and more? So even for those uses where Tor can be used, I2P can still do that. So yeah, I2P specifically is the way to go. So yeah, Tor I don't really care much about. I2P is where it's at. So yeah, everyone should be running an I2P node on their computer, and that should be pushed by GNU plus Linux distributions by default. And I say there has to be a campaign for that. Now I don't know myself how to make a campaign like that. I don't really know people. I don't know how to organize. But if anyone happens to hear this speech who has some influence or connections, knows people, is good at networking, then yeah, please do so. Yeah, because this is a good idea, and that idea needs to be put to action. So yeah, please do. Right, so that's the end of this speech. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye.